1410 WIBA and Ask the Experts with Wisconsin Capital Management online, wizcap.com. That's WISCAP.com. Hope you've had a chance to check out the website. If you haven't been there recently or haven't been there yet, definitely head on over there today. That's WISCAP.com. Of course, you can learn more about Wisconsin Capital Management, what makes them so unique, all the great things that they can do for you. It's a great day to learn more and, of course, start that conversation at wizcap.com. Joining us this morning from Wisconsin Capital Management is Nathan Plum. Nathan, of course, has an executive MBA and also a certified trust financial planner, as well as a portfolio manager at Wisconsin Capital Management. Nathan, how you doing this week?
Doing well. Great to hear your voice, Sean.
It's great to talk with you, and wow, we've got some really cool stuff to talk about as always on the program. Real quick though, before we get rolling, of course, I mentioned you are with Wisconsin Capital Management. Let's just real quick talk about Wisconsin Capital Management. Of course, started by your father, Tom, who's taking some needed time away from the show this week. Let's talk a little bit about the background of Wisconsin Capital Management and how you got your start.
Yeah, I started in 2003, March 10th, 2003. My dad was a little worried about nepotism when I started in the business, so I started as a assistant trust officer. Okay. And there you had the fun jobs of locking people's doors after they're gone and clearing out assets, and it's getting literally your hands dirty. Yeah. But I ended up learning that stuff where I'm working my way up. I ended up getting assigned small accounts to manage. I ended up doing well on those. And so on with that, I started, they put me as a portfolio manager on our proprietary mutual fund in 2013. And that's my main focus ever since.
That is awesome to hear, and it's good to get a little bit get your hands dirty a little bit here and there and kind of learn a little bit about the business. Interestingly enough, we're going to be talking about things like succession and what that all involves when it comes to your business. Before we get to that too, I wanted to ask you also, Nathan. Of course, you have an executive MBA. You're also a certified trust financial advisor. Let's talk about your MBA. You're a Badger, right? Do I remember that correctly?
Yep, I'm a proud business Badger. So yeah, I went to Granger Hall, had a wonderful experience out there. Learned from some of the top professors in the country, and also almost as importantly, my cohorts from my class. I'm still very close with many of them, and still see them and talk to them on occasion.
Oh, that's great to hear. We won't talk about the football team this week. We're going to leave it at that.
Yeah, we'll skip that one.
Yeah, we will. So this week we are going to be shifting focus to business owners, specifically those who are thinking about selling or exiting their business. Let's kind of walk through that process, Nathan, and kind of get some of those key steps that folks can be taking to really maximize that value from all those years of hard work.
Yeah, so it's a unique time for a business owner when you kind of I'm thinking about retiring, or I need to put in steps. Someone give me an offer and I get the steps and the logistical steps of selling the business. And then, what am I going to do afterward? How do I plan for my family? So, we at Wisconsin Capital help at all ends of that process.
You were talking earlier about some of your early days at Wisconsin Capital Management, and one of the things that's important is keeping good records, keeping good books, keeping track of that type of stuff. And really, when it comes to trying to evaluate a business, one of the things potential buyers are going to be looking at is at your records is not only how well is the business performing, but I'm going to guess how well did you keep track of those type of things, right?
That is incredibly important, and it sounds so simple, but I really can't stress it enough, is that you really need to treat your business almost like a separate person. So that means it has to have a separate checking account, has to have separate tax records, has to have a separate corporate credit card. So it's completely kind of different from yourself. So it's kind of easy that people are likely to get a little sloppy with the books. And you end up really kind of hurting your valuation because no one really trusts your kind of ad hoc or let me fix the books type stuff. So I cannot stress being very almost like OCD, clear and on your book. So it's a slip up that even large companies make.
Nathan, as we talk about that area too, I think for a lot of folks, maybe those who maybe they didn't keep the greatest of books over time, kind of manage things day to day, kind of making their own calls, and didn't really establish things well as far as what their business behind the scenes is all about and what it is that's marketable. And I think a lot of those folks end up saying, maybe I'll just liquidate and we'll call it a day. There is value in business, and some of it has to do with this. We were just talking, keeping good records, straightening things up. But it's really important to find out what that value is, because I think sometimes people might be surprised. All those years of equity and labor that were put into it can be quite valuable to potential suitors and buyers, can't it?
Yeah, that's a great point. That these business owners have been working their business so long that they just really can't imagine someone else buying their business or buying a part of their business. And you actually see this all the time. So people just kind of like, oh, I'm done. I'm going to sell their office furniture, close the door, close off the lights, and leave. And there actually might be some valuable things to sell in that business that they never really think about. So most businesses are sellable or have parts that's sellable, and I can't stress that enough. So, um, and a lot of business owners, the common things that they miss is that their lists of clients or lists of their vendors that they work with are often very available to someone else. So I think that is the important things to realize, that there's often something to sell, not just liquidate.
That's pretty amazing too. I think sometimes because we're working so closely with this stuff. For example, you mentioned, vendors or clients, those type of things. We tend to overlook them as a pretty valuable asset. And at the end of the day, that's really what we're doing is we're working with our vendors, we're working with our clients, and we're working with other customers. And that's really what at the end of the day, what we're doing is we're logistically moving things, whatever it is, between those three areas. What about, Nate, as we talked this morning with Nathan Plum of Wisconsin Capital Management online, wiscap.com. That's WISCAP.com. What about when it comes to knowing and understanding your business as far as the values there and the multiples there? There's a lot to know also, is depending on your field, it's going to be judged, engaged, and priced a little bit differently, isn't it?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So you kind of have to know what multiple your business sells for. So often if you have a business that has reoccurring revenue, those are often valued higher than a business that, like a shop that where people would just buy things once at. So and so those businesses have different what they call multiples in our business. So for example, if your business made $10,000 a year and the industry standard was 2 times revenue, right? So that mean a regular or a ballpark selling price to your business is roughly $20,000 as an example.
Talking this morning with Nathan Plum of Wisconsin Capital Management. The website, wiscap.com. That's WISCAP.com. Nathan, one of the things I've learned from you and your dad, Tom, over these past few programs is planning is essential. And I've got to guess that this area is something as well, that you want to have a plan in place. And a part of that plan is having a timeline. What should folks be thinking about as far as kind of that timeline for, let's say I want to retire and sooner or later, what point should I start looking into this stuff?
Yeah, so I think in my MBA textbooks, they tell you should start to plan your business 5 to 10 years before you actually sell the business. But in the real world, it seems like, you should always kind of be ready to sell. And you kind of need a team to do that. So you have to make sure you have a good CPA or a good accountant. And also probably either be friends or become friends quickly with a lawyer that specializes in these kind of things, usually called a mergers and acquisitions lawyer, and they often shorten their name into an M&A lawyer.
Those guys, I've met a few of those guys and gals. They're a fun bunch for sure. Very useful bunch though, and definitely very much needed. By the way, as we talk too about some of the financial and some of the I hate to phrase this way, but some of the cold numbers. There's also an emotional part to this, isn't there, Nathan? Where you've spent years and years, hours and hours, days, and missing kids' sporting events or other things in your life to really grow this business. We tend to forget that there is a pretty significant emotional connection to that, isn't there?
Yeah, you probably know some small business owners, and their business almost becomes part of their identity and part of their personality, right? So trying to bifurcate or disassociate the personality from the business is often kind of hard to do. And often the business owner often doesn't realize it. So that's kind of a period that you really need professionals to come in and be an assist and part of a team. You recommend not doing that alone. There's many ways to sell your businesses, many ways to sell your business from a tax advantage way, like with help with an accountant and an M&A lawyer. And the psychologically, it's hard too. It's often very stressful for your loved ones and your families as well. So that's something that actually we at WizCap really help smooth over, and that's what people really appreciate about us.
Do you see, it's a little off the cuff, but it kind of popped in my head there. Do you see oftentimes business owners offering to maybe stick around as maybe, as a liaison or a consultant, just to be like, hey, I'll if you need me, I'll become an employee at my former business, or become available for limited needs. Do you see that oftentimes where it's kind of hard to completely step away, and some of these business owners saying, hey, listen, if you've got a spot for me, I'd like to kind of stick around a little bit?
Yeah, I have definitely seen that. And I've seen that if you hang on a little bit, I've seen that work well. It has to be well structured and with the new owner. And I've seen it work poorly as well. So you just have to make sure it's structured, make sure every incentive aligns. If you have someone that's really hard that can't step back from the day to day, you're going to kind of struggle. And I'd recommend probably just trying to make sure that you have a timed exit, to make sure you have a timeline on that. Otherwise, you're going to end up making things a lot harder on yourself.
And Nathan, you mentioned, of course, working with a CPA and, of course, an M&A attorney. We're going to get a little bit more into that as far as the tax strategy for your exit and how to kind of handle that. We'll do that in just a moment. But I was going to ask you also, while we're still in this area, just about talking about the sale itself. I hear things like ESOPs and other things as well. I think people might be, and business owners might be, surprised at all of the different options and opportunities that may be out there for potential buyers.
You're exactly right, Sean. So when you're selling your business, you actually don't have to sell for cash. It's actually pretty rare someone pulls up with a dump truck of money and just dumps that at your door. So often these things are structured in different ways. There's a multiple way of selling your business. So you could sell to your employees. Sometimes that's the best route. That's the ESOP that you mentioned. Sometimes it's doing installment sales, and so just kind of buying over time. There's so many different ways, and each business is a little bit different. So yeah, and if the right planning, the right documents, the right contract, you can make it work out.
Talking this morning with Nathan Plum with Wisconsin Capital Management, the website wizcap.com. That's WISCAP.com. Great website to get to know Nathan, Tom, and the whole team at Wisconsin Capital Management. Again, that website wizcap.com. That's WISCAP.com. Talked a little bit about kind of having that plan in place. We're going to talk with Nathan about having a plan, a little bit more about that exit, things for preparation wise as far as getting ready for that off ramp. We'll get the details from Nathan. We will do that next as Ask the Experts with Wisconsin Capital Management continues right here on 1310 WIBA. 1310 WIBA and Ask the Experts with Wisconsin Capital Management online, wizcap.com. That's WISCAP.com, wizcap.com. Hope you get a chance today to stop on by the website. Again, a lot of great information. You can learn more about Nathan, Tom, and the whole team at Wisconsin Capital Management. You can also set up an appointment right on the website, wizcap.com. That's WISCAP.com. Talking this week about selling your business, and it is something that can be done. There are steps to be taken, things to be aware of as you make that transition. And of course, Nathan, as we talk this morning, you've run that good business. What do you want to do then as you near that exit?
Yeah, so the thing is really to get a professional team together. And Wisconsin Capital Management, we're often a team. So you want someone that will give you financial advice and not incentivized to sell you things. So just having that third party to talk to you, talk to your partner, talk to your family, and just kind of explain how things are going to work and what they can anticipate. And then everyone will, not be shocked and make some, poor decisions. So, and it's also a lot of people when they sell their business, especially in this area, they're really kind of philanthropic and they really want to donate to causes that they're passionate about. And if you sell your business, sometimes there's a lump sum and you can't use all those charities. You can only use at once. And so often there's things called like donor advised funds that you could put money into, and that way you can make sure that you're giving the charities that you want over time, and make things like annual donations to the charities that you really care about, and you have the ability to change. So
Let me ask you about that. You talk about things like those donor advised funds and other thing. We're really talking legacy at that point, aren't we, Nathan?
yeah, exactly. So you're making sure that the things that you want to happen actually happen. So, but there are a lot of pitfalls. There's a lot of horror stories out there, and we can actually touch on a few of those if you want.
Yeah, that's a funny thing. Let's talk a little bit about that and kind of dig in on some of those areas that folks need to be keen on if they're looking to sell.
Yeah, so often you're a little bit jubilant after selling your business. So there's some things that you've seen, and a couple of things you can think about and hopefully avoid. If this, one is the obvious, right? So often, buying some, oversized trophy purchase, as they say in the industry. So, the Lamborghini, the yacht, and stuff like that when you've not had that lifestyle before. So that's obviously a pinfall, and I think that's pretty evident. But the other ones are kind of things that often I see more often. So often it's some friends and family come with you in an investment. They're like, "Oh, I want you to start in my restaurant," and things like that. And you kind of know them and stuff like that. But often that is a real big pitfall as well. So there are a lot of people saying, "Oh, now that I know that you're rich, can you help me?" And it's really nice to have a third party like us to intervene, so that way you don't have to be the one that says no, or maybe, or I need to structure it this way. So that's one other pitfall to have. Then also, people run across this one a lot, is a lot of the hot tips, right? So you're at the golf course, or you're out with your dinner with your friends. They're like, "Oh, I had this great cryptocurrency, I had this great penny stock, I got this private investment that's super excited, and you should get part of it too." So you'll hear a lot of pitches like that if you sell your business. And again, that's really nice to have a third party intermediary like us just to kind of handle that kind of stuff.
Nathan,
And then go ahead.
I was going to say, yeah. One of the things I've heard you mention before is lifestyle creep as well. What's that about?
Yeah, so that's where you're like, I'm so lucky, and I feel so generous. I'm going to pay off, buy my mother a house. I'm going to buy, I'm going to pay off all the kids' debts. I'm going to pay off all my grandchildren's debts, and pay off some of my friends' debts. And actually doing that without any kind of financial planning beforehand, you often see this happen a lot with lottery winners, actually. And so that's something that really is a pitfall that's really easy to get in. And then probably the last one I probably see is that it's almost like a mindset that since I sold this business, I can do this again. And you kind of forget how hard it was running your business. Is kind of like the good old times type psychological trap you get into, and ends up being really, really hard. There's often a lot of hubris in saying, "Oh, I was successful once and I can do anything again." And so, yeah, so there's a lot of ways that you could fall, and that's why having a financial advisor like us is really important, just to kind of either bounce the ideas off, or to even kind of be your financial bodyguard.
As you mentioned, having that neutral third party is really great to have, as well. As we talked this morning with Nathan Plum with Wisconsin Capital Management, online wiscap.com. That's WISCAP.com. Before we wrap up this week, Nathan, let's kind of wrap things up nicely and just kind of close everything out, and let's talk about Wisconsin Capital Management and some of the value there when it comes to business owners and for them looking to reach out to you. Let's talk a little bit about what you guys can provide at Wisconsin Capital Management, Nathan.
Yeah, honestly, you have the financial expertise, but I think the most feedback we get is how much we try to educate both our clients and their partners and their families. And so, it's one thing trying to explain things to your spouse financially, and it's one thing to go through a third party like us and have things explained. So it seems to be a lot more comprehension, and you kind of know that they're taken care of in case you're not around, and they know what's going on financially. And so that's the one part that I really excel at.
It's great to hear, and it's great to think about too. I know, we started this conversation this week, Nathan, talking about the work that goes into building a business and the sacrifices that are made, and actually seeing some an opportunity there for for you to maybe do something great for yourself, your family, to be generous as well, but making sure that it's done smart and that there are some great opportunities with that. Speaking of great opportunities, what a day it is. Head on over to wiscap.com. That's WISCAP.com. Take this opportunity to learn more about Wisconsin Capital Management. If you're interested in making an appointment, you can do that right online. You can learn more at wiscap.com. That's WISCAP.com. Nathan, it's always great chatting with you. You have a fantastic day, and we'll do it all again real soon.
All right.
And again,
don't keep sloppy books. All right. Great talking to you.
Yeah, the financial people, that stuff drives you guys crazy. I know. Again, that website, wiscap.com. That's WISCAP.com. News comes your way next right here on 1310 WIBA.